Welcome to Wants to Watch, episode 15. I'm Racepal from Racepal. This, of course, is sponsored by Sportsbetting.com.au. Guys, this is the Caulfield Cup and Everest special. We're going to show you exactly how we price a race and how we find overlays, the shape, the tempo, who the advantage runners are. It's going to be a long one, but I hope you stay tuned. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick it off straight into the big one. It's the $14 million Everest, guys. We're going to show you initially how we believe the race is going to be run. And then we'll go through the ratings runner by runner and which horses are advantaged by the map. Whenever we're pricing up the race, guys, the first and foremost thing that I always prefer to do is understand how that race is going to be run. Okay, so I want to know what horses are going to lob in what position. As you can see here, we've got the speed map together, and this is generally the on-settling map, you know, after about 200 meters, where I feel like most runners are going to be sitting in transit, and that really allows me to understand tempo of the race and what runners may be advantaged by that. From there, what we do is we then start to price up the race. Once we understand how the race is going to be run, what runners are going to lob where, we can then start to understand theoretical peaks of runners, where they're going to peak in their preparation, what their actual number is and what they're able to do on exposed form. We can start to really build a market around that. So why don't we get straight into the Everest and how we believe the race is going to be run. Alright guys, so obviously Nature Strip from the wide draw is going to ping across and 10 Sovereigns is going to come with it. We believe that Nature Strip is going to grab the 1A position and 10 Sovereigns is going to sit outside of it. Racepal punches through, grabs the box seat, and Sunlight will also rally through and grab 10 Sovereigns back, which presents a really interesting dynamic for Classic Legend. What Nash, we predict, is probably going to do, he's going to be burnt for speed. So the likelihood is that Nash is going to have to take a sit on Classic Legend. However, 200 meters, there's going to be speed on, and Classic Legend's going to find himself stranded. This sets up so perfectly for Piarada, Arcadia Queen, and In Her Time. For me, they're the three runners that absolutely get the run of the race. Piarada will probably hold the midfield rails run, and as you'll see when we show you the actual ratings, we've factored that heavily into our price. Arcadia Queen is a tricky one. Obviously, we don't know whether she can actually run the number required to be winning this race. And In Her Time is a very interesting runner as well. Obviously, we know she flies fresh first up. She might be coming towards the end of her career, where we know that to be true. However, the other two that I really think are advantaged by the speed on is going to be Alizé and obviously Santa Ana Lane. Santa Ana Lane is so unfortunate with the barrier draw dropping so far back. It's not ideal at all for Santa Ana Lane. Alizé, however, whilst the two other wide draw runners, Nature Strip and 10 Sovereigns, are going to push forward, Alizé will just drop in and sit off the pace there and just be snagged back. And Alizé absolutely can run the number required to be winning this race. Talking about numbers, let's get directly into how we've rated each runner in the Everest. Alright guys, so let's get straight into talking about numbers. We just spoke about the map and the tempo and how we see the race shape really going on Saturday for the Everest. But let's talk about the individual runner ratings and how they stack up. Now, the first thing we want to do before we can frame a context of a market, you know, 12 horses in one race, we want to understand the ability of each runner in the race and where they track in terms of their preparation and fitness. And we can do that by creating an individual runner profile for each and every racehorse that's ever ran a race in the world. And that's what the Racepal database is. And what we then do is, if you look at a few columns here, like the RBM and NBA, they allow us to have a normalized rating for each and every performance the horse has ever had. What this allows us to do throughout their preparation is track their fitness levels and track when we believe they're theoretically going to be able to peak and over what distances. So if we just take a look at a horse like 10 Sovereigns, for example, and this really just shows the global nature of our database and how this is where we find our edge with runners coming to Australia. I think we're in a better position than most ratings databases to understand, in the context of an Australian sprint race, how a horse like 10 Sovereigns is going to run. For example, if we have a look at the NBA column, which is a margin base adjusted, essentially we factor in the class, the weight of that particular run, and we come up with a standardised rating. Now, if we have a look at 10 Sovereigns right here, in the July Cup over the 1200 metres at Newmarket, 10 Sovereigns were in a 113 on a margin base adjusted rating, which is just absolutely phenomenal. If we look at that 113 in the context of this race, then 10 Sovereigns is rated about $6 to be winning this race. Now what we want to do by contrast is look at Santa Ana Lane's performance by contrast in the TJ Smith in April this year. Santa Ana Lane over the 1200 metres ran a 1:14 over a similar distance. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got one horse that's run a 1:13 as a peak, and Santa Ana Lane at his peak has run a 1:14. So that's the peak rating they've ever run. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to replicate that on Saturday, but it gives us a real idea of their scope and what these horses are capable of producing. Now, let's get into putting all these ratings for the 12 runners into a market. All right, so now where we're at. We've got the tempo, we've got the race shape, and we've also got our rating of the horse that we believe it's going to be able to run in the Everest. What we then do is we punch it into our algorithm, which essentially pops out a probability for us given the weights, the jockey performance, the trainer performances, and various other things weighted in. All right, and then if you look at the right column, once we punched in our ratings and we factored in the tempo and race shape, we then have what's called our assessed price or our true probability, which we can then take and measure against the market and detect inefficiencies, which we're going to do right now. I've got this little spreadsheet here where literally I just plug in every runner's name, our assessed price, and what the market is in the far right column. Now, what this allows us to do is calculate what's called a Kelly staking strategy, where effectively our assessed price is measured against the market price, and then if any overlays exist, then we're able to capitalize and we get a suggested staking size. Okay, so as you can see really clearly here, I've just highlighted in green where the overlays exist to our market versus the actual market. We've rated Piarada at $4.40. The market currently finds it at $6. So our suggested Kelly staking will be 1.5 units. Again, 10 Sovereigns, we've rated $8.62, far better than what the market rates the horse. The market currently finds it at $26, which means again, it's about a 1.5 unit bet. Alizé, we've rated about $7.50 mark, and the market currently finds it at $16. Again, this is about a 1.5 unit bet. So as we can see here, guys, if there was no new information coming into the market, if nothing changed, and this was, 5 minutes before the race on Saturday, and this was my market, I'd be having a 5 unit play in the race on Piarada, 10 Sovereigns, Alizé, and In Her Time. Now, obviously, we're recording this on Thursday morning, so a lot of things can change between now and then, and things that we have to wait and factor into our market. However, if I was to bet right now, this would be our market. So guys, that is it, our Everest market. We are back in Piarada, 10 Sovereigns, Alizé, and obviously In Her Time as well. All right, guys, so we're straight into the Caulfield Cup, and it's an absolute cracking affair for the $5 million race over the 2,400 metres. All right, like we did with the Everest, guys, we're going to go through the tempo, the race shape, and obviously what horses are going to be advantaged by that, as well as what horses have the exposed form and the ratings to actually win the race. All right, let's get straight into it. All right, so we have got the runners listed in market order here, guys, and obviously like we did with the Everest, the ones where overlays exist, or the runners where there's market inefficiencies compared to our assessed price, we've highlighted in green. However, what I want to show you here is just sorting by our assessed price. Just because an overlay doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that we haven't rated a runner highly, put it that way. If you look at Finch, we've rated Finch $6.94. He's clearly our on top selection. However, the market finds him at $5.50. So we're not saying that Finch can't win. What we're saying is that no value exists in the market, therefore it wouldn't be a great bet. It's like if you go to the shop and buy milk, and the same pint of milk is, $4 here, and another place is $2.50, you're never going to be buying the $4 pint of milk. It's just to use a really simple analogy there. So the ones that we believe are advantaged and overlays exist, we've rated Mr. Quickie, $7.27. We've rated Mirage Dancer, $9.37. We've rated Constantinople, $11.22. Kafia, $13. The Chosen One, $16. And Red Vernon, $16.50. So now what I want to do is I want to sort by our biggest overlay in the race. We can do that just by our Kelly calculator here. We would be having a 1 unit stake on right now at $34 for Kafia to win the Caulfield Cup at the weekend. We've assessed Kafia $13. Now, Mirage Dancer is also one that interests us a lot as well. And what you will notice here is that we're actually told by Kelly to stake higher on Kafia and lower on Mirage Dancer, even though our assessed probability is the other way around on both of them. Now you might be wondering why this is the case. However, what this really means is the discrepancy between the backed price or the market price and our assessed price is greater. So Kafia, we rated $13, there's $34 in the market. Mirage Dance, we've rated $9.40 and there's currently $15 in the market. Both 1 unit plays if you round up, however, slightly more on Kafia. Alright guys, so now you know our advantage runners in the Caulfield Cup and where the overlays exist. These aren't necessarily our highest probability raters. They're where the market's got it wrong. Okay, so we're with Kafia, Mirage Dancer, Red Vernon, Mr. Quickie, and the Chosen One at the various staking levels you can see there. Alright, that's all she wrote for episode 15 of Ones to Watch. Obviously, it was the Everest and Caulfield Cup special.